Good afternoon. This is Michael Harding for On the Arts. We have some very exciting stuff for you today. I'm happy to say that we have in the studio someone who has become a very good friend over the last, I would say, year or two. Somebody I've heard his name for quite a while, and that is Dan Fowkes. How are you doing today?
Great. It's felt like 15 years.
Gotcha.
Give or take.
When I met you, time stood still. So, I don't know if this is a compliment or an insult when it comes down to it.
Depends on how the time stood still.
But for our audience out there listening to us, just as a reminder, we are here to basically blow the lid off of all those little artistic secrets that we have here in southern Utah. What we never, ever want to hear is somebody saying, wow, that theater is the best-kept secret in St. George, or that musical group, wow, what a secret. I wish more people knew about it. Well, you know what? We're going to do something about that. We want you to get to know not only those artistic organizations that are out there, but also the people behind those organizations, the people who are up on stage, the people who are curating the museums or playing the instruments. And I'm actually very, very surprised at the vibrancy of the arts that we actually have here in southern Utah. Not only the number of organizations, there are plenty. You go to the St. George website, and there are lots of organizations, but people with all sorts of level of skill, people with all sorts of level of experience, people with all sorts of interest in all of these various forms of the arts. Now, we're also going to be talking today about a group called the Red Rock Swing Club. Now, what this is swing dancing that is available to really anybody who wants to come in and participate. It's $6, and they do have events here on the Dixie State University campus where we broadcast from, and they have a little class, if you will.
Swing dancing.
Exactly, and after the class, then they can actually go on the dance floor and dance and swing to some music. Now, as is my tradition, I always like to give a little personal bent, a little personal history on how I relate to this. I'll tell you, back when I was 8 years old, I remember my grandparents took my parents, myself, and my brother to a restaurant in Virginia, and it was called the Bomber Cafe. And I thought, well, that's a really cool name. It's all I could think of was the B-52 bombers and such. And it turns out I wasn't too far off the mark. What it was a World War II themed restaurant, a deli and a cafe.
Was it in a hangar?
It was not in a hangar.
Did it look like a hangar?
They did actually have it dolled up. So it was like you walked in, and it was like you were in a B-52 for a little bit. That was the waiting area. And then you went to the tables, the seating area, and they had decorations all around of aircraft from World War II. They had uniforms all over the walls, the World War II nurse uniforms and the soldiers' uniforms and various forms of dress uniforms and combat uniforms. And it really was not that World War II was this great thing, but I do think that the Greatest Generation came out of it, which is certainly
hard workers,
absolutely hard workers, and some incredible bravery and dedication. So this wasn't to glorify the downsides of it; it was to glorify and remember the nostalgia of the era, the nostalgia of the pride. And of course, I didn't know all this at 8 years old. I thought I knew everything in the world, but I certainly didn't know all of this stuff. I just thought it was a cool atmosphere. And I remember the waiter came over and took our orders and such, and I can't remember the name of the club sandwich, but it was something like, I don't know, the Blitzkrieg Club or something like that. And I remember the food being great, but I remember I was eating, and all of a sudden, over the speakers, this song began, and I'm pretty sure it was Sing, Sing, Sing. Of course, one of the most recognizable of swing music and such. Everybody can dun 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 dun. I won't
pick up their gal and go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, well, this is fun music. But what really impressed me, or what really made an impression on me, was the fact that all of these older people who I hadn't noticed when I walked in, all of a sudden they got up from their tables. And they went to this area of the cafe, which I hadn't noticed before. It was an all wooden floor. And they got up there and they started doing some of the most fun dancing I have ever seen. That was my introduction to swing dancing. Wow. And I watched these people who at the time, they were probably only in their oh gosh, this was in the 80s, so, they were probably maybe 60 or so, and to me, that was ancient at the time. But wow, they were limber, they were having a grand old time, and some of them did have their grandkids there or their children there. There were younger couples as well, and everybody was just having this great time doing these moves. Everybody just seemed to know them. and they were having a great
And
time.
synchronization, like they were all synchronized too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, when they did what I, later came to learn was, called the Charleston, which of course everybody has seen versions of and such, the Lindy Hop and such. But I didn't know this at the time. I was just charmed by it. Now, I remember one of the great things is the wait staff would actually come out and they would invite people to join them doing swing dance. And I actually got chosen. I was the cute little 8-year-old. And, one of the waitresses came over to me. And, of course, I had the grown-up pride of testosterone. Yeah. She chose me, ladies and gentlemen. And, she came over and she took my hand and led me out onto the dance floor. And I just thought she just had this great sense to know what a great dancer I was and wanted me to show off for folks. Oh, yes. She could see the potential. And I remember I got out there on the floor, and the way I remember it, I was brilliant. The way I remember it, everyone was watching me on the floor, and they were picking up tips as far as how to do swing dancing. Now, as I look back on it, I have to wonder if I'm not remembering everybody looking at me thinking, what is that child doing?
Yeah.
But man, I was having a good time. And I have to say, ever since then, I have really enjoyed swing dancing. I have come to realize that I don't know what I'm doing. I've come to realize I really have no skill at this whatsoever. But it's interesting to me that it seems anybody can get out on that dance floor. And if you start playing swing music, even if they just have a step or two,
that works.
There's a huge smile on everybody's face.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is so exciting about swing dancing particularly. Now, I mentioned the Red Rock swings. And just so you know, there is some information we're going to be sharing later on in this program as far as how to go and participate in their classes, how to go participate in their concerts, if you will, or their dances that they put together. But in the meantime, as we're waiting for my co-host, Christina, she's also the producer of this show, Christina Harding, my beautiful wife, who I have to give credit to for coming up with the idea for this show. I've mentioned many times that getting the show was a very arduous process. I went to Sean Denovan, the owner of the station, and I basically just said, hey, can I do a show? And he said, sure. That was the application process, and I didn't have any idea what I was going to do. So she came up with the idea of On the Arts, talking to artists. Now, that being said, now that I have done quite a bit of talking here, we've got in the studio, as I mentioned, Dan Fowkes, who has a name here in St. George, and he actually has a worldwide name and image that we're going to talk about. But he's done a tremendous, tremendous body of work in the film department, if you will. Not the film department of DSU, but
industry.
In the industry.
Hopefully.
And I'll say, I'm happy to say he also did some live acting as well in a show that I directed, about a year and a half ago.
A year ago was?
Yeah.
Last year.
Well, like I said, time with you, it just...
2017, I think it was. Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere.
Did a fantastic job in the show Over the River and Through the Woods. But Dan, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
No problem whatsoever.
Glad to be here.
Dan, what are you up to right now?
What am I up to right now? Well, I'm talking to Michael Harding right now. No, just keeping busy. I'm working on a feature film right now that I've written. It's called Maven.
Maven.
And we actually did a kind of an audience table read a couple months ago.
Right. I kind of remember that.
You kind of remember that because I invited you to read as one of the characters. So
Absolutely.
There we go.
Which I was very, very flattered by, actually to be up there with several of the... It's difficult to say the name actors of St. George, but a lot of people that I'd heard their names. So it was a pleasure. Carolyn Merced, who we had on the show 2 programs ago, I met her at this reading, having heard her name for quite a while, and several other wonderful people. And you actually read in that as well.
Yep. Yeah. There's a character that I have the ability to write for myself. So I gave myself a character that I wanted to play.
Isn't that how we get work in
right?
this business or anything?
You produce something, you're going to be in it. No, but it was a fantastic time just to get up there and hear it read from other perspectives, other voices, so you can really gauge. And then with an audience, too. so
Right.
you can.
I was in the audience.
And Christine,
Hello,
is
I'm
welcome
here
to the
now.
studio.
Hi,
Christine
hello.
is
Hello,
here.
she's
Hello,
here.
I'm here. Hi, hi everybody. Yes, I'm here now.
And by the
Yeah.
way, if you do want to see that I was not lying about my beautiful wife,
Oh,
you
stop.
can check us out on
Stop.
live feed
Go on with you. Don't make me sing. Yes.
on YouTube, or
Stop it.
you can.
Stop
There's
it.
too much fun being
Yeah,
had in the
yeah.
studio right now, and you can also watch on Facebook if you go to Radio St. George. That's just RADIO space ST space GEORGE. We are broadcasting live right now with video feed, and this will also be archived, so you can check us out really at any time because you love this interview so
Day
much. You have
or
to
night.
listen.
Yes.
Yes. So, anyways, welcome to the studio,
Thank
Christina.
you. It's good to be here. Hello, Dan.
Hello.
I'm glad that you're here today.
I am glad that I am here
yes,
today.
we are so happy.
And anyways, getting back to you're working on Maven.
Maven, yeah.
We did the reading. You
Yay.
talked about how having an audience out there gave you some reaction.
Yeah, just to gauge some of the humor, what worked, what didn't, and so it was able to give me enough information from an audience perspective on some rewrites.
Ah,
Go back there, figure out which dialogue didn't work, where I can add some. So yeah.
So how many rewrites have you had since that
So
reading?
since there, I believe I just locked the script last week. So
Fantastic.
been working on it because there's a couple things I wanted to go in and give some characters a little more strengths and put them in different situations. So
Yeah.
that's I think a table read. Yeah, whenever it's the same thing with theater. When you want to judge your script and get it out there in front of an audience, you do the table reads or the performances. So yeah.
Well, you say you've locked the script now. Did I not see? Maybe it was on Facebook or somewhere else. There was some sample footage of what
Yeah.
you shot already.
Yeah, so what we did is we got together and just took a scene out of the script that we're gonna keep, but it was just something that we could put out there into social media and just to let people see the characters and briefly kind of what the story's gonna be about. And so we did that pickup line scene that you can see on my Facebook or Twitter, wherever.
Now, as if everybody weren't stalking you already, where would they go on Facebook? They just Dan Fowkes?
Dan
or-
Fowkes, yeah. Dan Fowkes, and then it's just at Dan Fowkes or at Dan Fowkes on Twitter. Yeah, got that little bluebird tweeting all the time.
Now I understand that Jared Davis is
Yes.
your main guy in the show.
Yes, Jared
Yeah.
Davis is playing a wonderful Maven.
Now, that just surprises me because I just recently saw him in Young Frankenstein
Yes.
at the Electric Theater.
Yeah.
And he was hilarious. He played Frankenstein.
Yes, and he did
And
fantastic.
That guy can dance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so this man is also doing film.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's it. Yeah, so I met Jared. When did I meet Jared? Probably briefly, end of 2016. I did a little video thing for that when he did Addams Family,
Ah, yeah.
and then I met him a little more when I was understudying for Willy Wonka.
Yes.
'Cause he played Willy Wonka, and someone directed that here.
Somebody did.
Yeah.
I don't know. That gorgeous woman directed that. But I don't know. Myself. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And so I got to know him more there, and then with the guerrilla film competitions that we have, he's participated
yeah, he's done
in
quite a
film
few
and
of those.
that as well. So I was able to know a little background on him, on just what his interests are, and then had him, But I think just writing this story, especially this story, because I wanted to write it specific to Southern Utah. Many locations that I could just go walk around and check out, and then just kind of visualize this story happening here. And then use predominantly Southern Utah talent and crew as well. So, being able to have Jared fill those shoes of Maven, it was kind of like as I was writing it, I was trying to figure out, okay, who's going to play Maven? Like, there was a time where I just didn't have a Maven. And then after meeting Jared and getting to know him, and
You're like, he fits the
just
part.
like, man,
He's Maven.
he could play Maven.
Now, did you have to teach your actors when they're in the film? Because a lot of these people do theater. So did you have to kind of redirect them to calm down about the film? Because I don't know much about film.
Yeah, I didn't and that's the great thing that I've learned quite a bit as well. Just being both, participating in the community theater world here a little bit, and then get a feel for theater. But then also have my, my sight and my goals are obviously filmmaking and film acting and directing. So working with Jared, I think he's kind of figured that balance out. I've seen where he could be really big on theater, which, again, there's so many times in film that you just need to be, you can be just as big, because that's what you're capturing. That's what you want to capture. So, but this particular scene with Maven, it was just this pickup line scene. I don't know. It's just you're moment making. That's what I like to say it.
That's a really great way to put it.
In filmmaking, you're just moment making and trying to capture those moments. Because that's what's going to live for. And I've thought a lot about the difference between theater and film. It's theater, you prep all this time so an audience can live in that moment and take something away. And then with film, you're trying to create an atmosphere for actors to come in, live in the moment that you can capture that's going to be played over and over and over again. So it's changed my perception a little bit on just the importance on what needs to go into a scene, or where you need to take your time, and don't rush into something. And
well, I have to say, I very much admire actors who can do both film and stage. And I think that's a lot rarer than people think. I can speak from my own personal experience. I've done a little bit of film, and please, emphasis on a little.
Wow.
And there's a reason. My phone does not ring. This will show how old I am. It doesn't ring off the hook for film producers calling me. When I was up in Seattle, I did a few films, some projects, some commercials and things. And being primarily a stage actor, it really is about being big and putting that energy out there. And on 3 separate occasions, I had directors yell my way. I'm not going to say yell at me because I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but yell my way, stop moving your head. And I would look at them and I'd say, like, I'm not moving my head. And they're saying, we're doing a close-up, you keep moving your head. And I kept saying, I'm not. And then they showed me on the playback, they said, look, your head is all over the place. And they were absolutely right. But being a stage actor, I don't really worry about those teeny, tiny movements.
That space.
Yeah.
You need that,
And there are also who we consider great actors, and there are both in the film world and the theater world, that just don't cross over really well. Now, there is a very prominent Hollywood actor. I don't know what I can get away with as far as telling names and such. And please know I will preface this with, these are my opinions and the opinions of people I've talked to.
For all 2 of our listeners.
I think we're at 3 now.
3?
Yes.
Woo!
Hopefully 2 of the 3 have heard of this actor, Denzel Washington.
Fantastic,
I find him to be wonderful, wonderful, wonderful on film. And he bombed on Broadway. Absolutely bombed when he was doing a play. Because he's used to making those small, like you were saying, the moment making the small minutiae. Julia Roberts is another one that she went in, I can't remember what the play was, but she was contracted for, I think it was a 6-week run, and bombed. Just absolutely bombed. Because she's wonderful on film, but couldn't get there for the stage. Even in Seattle, we had Tom Skerritt come to play the stage manager in our town at the Intiman Theater, and people walked out. They wanted their money back. Because he was up there, talking to himself or what have you, thinking
but
that
they just couldn't hear him.
Yeah. And I'm sure he was doing brilliant work up there, but they just couldn't hear. So now that's a difference, or there is a difference between actors who can only do one or the other. I consider myself a stage actor. I don't think I could do well on film at this point. But people like Jack Nicholson, I understand, are brilliant on stage.
Hugh Jackman.
As well. Yeah.
I mean, he's the hot topic right now with both. Being able to transition from both. So
I'd say, Jared Davis, if you are listening, we are complimenting you in a major way right now.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about current projects, certainly, but I want to know where you came from. Let's go back to the beginning and find out how you got here.
Folks? Who's the man?
So, Dan, are you from here in St. George?
I am. So I grew up.
That was a quick answer. Okay.
I am. Red dirt, in my shoes.
Hey.
Leeds, Utah. Actually, Leeds, Utah. It's where I was born and raised.
Woo!
Okay, well, I was born in St. George at the hospital.
Oh, because they didn't have a hospital in Leeds
No,
at the time.
no.
Yeah, okay.
No, they still don't. The barn out in the back.
Barn in the
maybe,
back.
Yeah, I don't think any of our 3 listeners live in Leeds. So
Yeah, we're all right. Yeah. Hey.
But yeah, Leeds. Grew up there, and I think I think as I've gotten older and I've been able to look back and reminisce on my childhood days, I think being able to live in a town like that where I was always out in the mountains hiking around, just this free-reined spirit just kind of going off, and I think that's some of my personality that I've taken into my adulthood is just keeping that same free-range spirit. Go out there, try something, explore something, and
Well, were you a people observer?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think especially through my getting into high school and early 20s, and still to this day.
Were you
Still
interested in film or acting
Yeah.
in high school?
So, I mean, when I was a kid, I remember trying to lasso my ceiling fan like Indiana Jones.
And
bet
you
your mother
still have
loved
all your
that.
limbs.
And I still have
Yeah.
all my limbs,
Uh-huh.
but I tried to do that. I tried to jump off the house with an umbrella like Mary Poppins.
Yes.
So if I didn't say that movies had an impact on my life growing up, it definitely did.
Yeah.
So, and then I think more so into my adolescence is when I started picking up a camera and, doing the whole stop motion thing with cars and then,
hasn't done that? Yeah,
stopping,
yeah.
play, and then see it play back as an actual like car chase.
And when you talk about a camera to do that, was that a manual camera for stills, or was that?
So that was, it would be the VHS, just the small VHS camcorder type cameras.
Right.
And so, and I remember,
wow.
taking 2 VCRs, to the TV, and I would have a blank tape in one VCR, and I would have the camera plugged into the first one, and then I would, this was the time the Matrix was really big too, so I would jump on the tramp and then try to slow myself down like the Matrix. So then I would hit slow on the other VCR, and it would capture it, and
So you could be
and then I could record that onto a blank tape.
Sweet.
So a bunch of just just experimenting and just having fun.
Well, for those of you under 30 out there, VCR stands for Video Cassette Recorder. And by the way, the video cassettes were about 3 times the size of the phones that we have now. So
and I still have it's funny because my parents still had it, so they gave it to me. But in my closet, I still have that VHS camcorder, it still works, and I have blank tapes ready to shoot something on it because I'm pretty nostalgic that way. And I'd love to shoot something on that type of stuff. It's just
might all come back.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It's fun.
The popular thing to do again.
Right.
I remember reading an article about George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. If you haven't heard about them, where have you been?
Yeah.
But how in their youth they found a camera.
Yeah.
And they just started playing. Steven Spielberg, I think his first movie was called Duel, I think.
His first commercially,
And it was about, a semi-truck that was terrorizing a guy in a car.
Great. Yeah.
I just watched a documentary on him. If you haven't seen it, it's on HBO.
I've heard that's
Go
fantastic.
or HBO Now. And so, I mean, I think that's, I was watching his documentary, and there's so many things that I was, just like, oh yeah, I did something like that too. Like, that's really cool.
That was a great movie too. Yeah.
Hey, Sean.
Hey.
Well, I think Sean Denovan has just come into the
Thank you,
studio.
Sean.
He's
We're
adjusting
we're
our
off
picture.
balance, and now we're on balance now.
Yeah.
So
if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube,
apologize that
this is
we
not an
missed
earthquake,
it.
just so you know.
we were what?
Dan, stop that.
Sweet.
Dan, stop.
Hey, I look even better on your phone, Sean. Yeah.
But I will say, Dan, I think the first shot that Steven Spielberg took, if I remember correctly, was actually what became his first commercial movie, Duel. He was sitting in the back of a car, and they were backing out of the garage. And that was the first time when he watched it again, he thought, I could do this.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just started to experiment. I mean, I know he did a short film with the old film cameras, and that was an inspiration for later when he did Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There were a lot of similar ideas that he did when he was younger that obviously when the chance came and the opportunity where he had the studio behind him and he wanted to do something, that's what he did.
When you went to the movies as a child or as a teenager, you didn't just go and watch the film like most of us where we just eat our popcorn and, sit by our date. You were probably analyzing
I'd say for
all the angles and
definitely now
yeah.
I do that. And it's annoying. You know, you can't really enjoy a film because you're always trying to figure out just the behind the scenes of every shot. But no, I think the first movie I remember seeing in the theater, and this would date me, is Home Alone.
Gotcha.
Home Alone, and
Macaulay Culkin, some
and
of the best
I
acting.
screamed when Daniel Stern stepped on that nail.
Oh, you did,
because it just freaked me out.
It freaked you out.
Yeah.
How old were you when you saw that?
I was probably 4.
Oh my word, that has our age.
I mean, my gosh, you need carbon dating to figure out how old Christina and I
know.
are.
It's funny because I talked to people, you know, like their first films they saw are like Jaws and all these like great films, and I'm just like, yeah, Home Alone. It's my first one.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Or The Exorcist. That was probably my first one. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you did stop motion car chases and things like that. What kind of films were you making as a kid? What did you think they were?
Huge Mel Brooks fan. So I was always trying to write things and just do spoof type. I think there was one film I did when I was a kid, and I called it the Spoofinator. Spoofinator. So it was all just funny, you know, kids trying to do action, you know, fight scenes and use smoke bombs for atmosphere and
cool.
And you know, the fake blood had to have the fake
blood.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those
Brooks,
rom-coms and
Mel
their fake
Brooks,
blood.
Yeah, Mel Brooks was a huge, you know, always comedy was huge for me. And I think even to this, I even have like a script that I wrote when I was 14 called Training Error. That's just, I wrote it when I was 14.
Wow.
So I still have it. And I mean, there's a lot of because there's just a lot of rip-offs, you know, that made me laugh when I was watching films. So there's a lot of rip-off dialogues in that script. But,
how else are you going to learn, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, you
learn
know.
from the masters.
Yeah, just start doing it.
Well, that's right. Did you ever show your films to people, or were these just things you did for yourself?
No, I definitely would get you know, with the neighborhood kids, my friends, we would shoot films and then watch them together, and then I'd drag my parents in and sisters or whoever and have them watch them.
$3.
Yeah, parents are very supportive. Yeah. That's great.
So anyway, you're in Leeds and you're making movies, and locally they are a big hit with your parents and your friends.
Right.
What happened next?
Just went through the high school days. I think the only, and I think high school, it's always that trying to figure out who you are, period. And I never figured it out.
I
didn't, you know, we never do.
I still haven't. Yeah.
Yes, but,
right there with you.
Yeah, I didn't really do any, I didn't do theater I did like storytelling contests when I was in 4th grade. I remember that, and I have that on camera, but I kind of fell out with theater stuff, or just because I was more that teenager closed shell, you know,
angst, teenage angst,
you know, and
you're that scary artist,
moody,
you're moody,
yeah.
I think and then the only time I really did a film in my high school days was for a sociology project that, you know. Yeah. So got a good grade on it.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And the career began.
And it began.
Star was born.
High school.
In a world.
Yeah. But I think I didn't really start pursuing film. Like, filmmaking's always been on my mind since I was a kid. It's for some weird reason I never really knew how I was going to do it, but I just knew I was going to do it.
You wanted to do it.
Yeah, and I wanted to, and still to this day, it's just, you know.
Well, that's one thing I've noticed about you.
Still figuring it out.
Yeah, getting to know you over the years, your passion for film and acting is amazing. I mean, you just don't talk about it. You go out there and you actually make the movies. You do it. You find a way. You find the funding. You get it done. And instead of just talking about it, you're doing it. And that's one thing that I've admired.
And I think that's, in social media today, it's such a different way of doing filmmaking. I mean, obviously social media's changed our culture.
Yeah.
Like, you know, on its side, just totally flipped around. But I definitely say social media has helped just because of that connection that you're able to make with other people in
instantly
the industry and send auditions through video and have them, you know,
Well, it seems like this is going to come out wrong. I'm going to guarantee that right now. But I am going to say it seems like anybody can make a movie. Now, please know I'm not saying that anybody has the skill or knows angles and picture and things like that and what really goes into it. But by that, I mean everybody has, or a lot of people have, those little computers in their pocket. Those phones,
I mean,
that are they're more powerful than the Cray computer back from the 80s. And so, and wasn't it that movie Unsane that was shot entirely on an iPhone?
Unsane. Tangerine was another one that was made on the iPad.
Got it.
But with just different lenses.
So there's no excuse anymore.
I mean, there's really no excuse. But I mean, there's a comedian that I follow, and he said it pretty well. He says, next person that tells me to make to make a movie on my phone, I'm going to make them sit through the whole thing and watch it. and so I think there's something to that.
Even his parents are saying,
there's something to that because anyone you can make a movie with anything, but there is a certain techniques and standard equipment and that just exists and is just there. But it definitely shouldn't dissuade you from just telling a story. I mean, and that can be done with anything.
Well, I know, especially around here, we've just been barely introduced to the film community in this area. We attended the film festival that they had last spring, which was a lot of fun.
Guerrilla Film Festival.
Growing and growing
you
and growing.
took first place, I believe, at that for your movie that you did.
It was 7x7 or something
70
like that.
times 7.
70 times 7.
Yeah, that was a beautiful production.
Thank you.
Very well done. But that was just community people coming together, making films. And you could see the different styles and what certain directors were working on, what filmmakers were learning. And then they were able to put it on the big screen, and local actors were in the movies, and that was exciting. But the support that was there for each other.
That's just what makes it fun, is the cultivation of just you have the fun venue of seeing it on the big screen.
Oh, that was exciting.
And enjoying it with an audience, know.
And I noticed everybody cheered for everyone else's movies at that event. That was exciting.
Camaraderie, it's there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep, they all wanted to see everybody do well. So that was a fun night.
Well, and there is another event that an event and experience that I'm very, very interested in. We talked to Adam Mast a few weeks ago. We had him on the show,
and he'll be coming on next week also.
Oh, fantastic!
For his Horror Fest.
The Horror Fest. But we talked about this project that's coming from up north. It starts when you go to the theater. They have the little promo that says you've heard of community theater. And then they promote community film. And isn't there a movie that was made by a community just to make a film that's being circulated?
Absolutely, I think I haven't seen it yet, but I know that's it took them 9 months, or I can't remember the time frame, but I mean it is people coming together and just making, because I mean you do it with theater, and especially in today's world with the technology, the way it is, there's no excuse. It's just people can get together and make a really good quality film.
Well, what are you hoping, Dan, with your movie Maven that you're starting? What are you hoping?
In Maven is there's always the hopes of working with a budget. Right?
Does money come into play?
That's always it's always the case.
Darn it. Yeah.
Theater or whatever you're doing, but I think there's just the money. I always looked at it this way: the money's not for me. It's for people to help make it, because time's very valuable to me, and I understand that. And even on films that I do where we can just work and collaborate and come together, my role as a director on short films I've done has always been we're only going to do it from this time to this time. These are the shots I want. These are the shots we're going to get, and then that's it. Like all the thinking has to be done on my time and not while everyone else is there giving their time. So
because they all have their jobs, and then they volunteer their time to come
exactly. And so that's something that's always been priority for me is understanding other people's time and not trying not to waste it. Because it's more valuable to me than money is. So, but I know that working on a film takes a lot of time. And it's you can either break it up into the way they did the community level filmmaking, which was over a long period of time, and just when people can do it, or there's the way of just scheduling. This is our production days. This is when we need people. These are your rates, and we're gonna build a film.
So, what are you needing for Maven at this point in your process?
Yeah. So I've been working with some producers, producer out of Salt Lake.
Oh, really?
Jonathan, Jonathan
okay.
Green, and then Jason Mueller down here in Southern Utah. So he's helped line producing it. And
Right.
What does that mean, line
produce?
producing?
So we took the script and he's given it a budget. So we've broken down just these scenes, a shooting schedule. This is how many days we're looking at.
Right.
So, when it comes to the investment pitches and take the pitch packet and go and say, this is our film, this is all that's needed, this is our schedule, this is our budget.
Where do you go to find people to help you?
Yeah, it's the gold mine.
Yeah.
The gold rush of today, right?
Yeah.
It's just just networking and just
word of mouth.
And, word of mouth, talking with other people that have been making films, and and then just sending your stuff out there to pitch it to them. So
Well, that's where I do want to take a moment and get kind of serious for a second. I mean, we are having a good time talking about the business and such, but something I tremendously admire about you, Dan, and this is getting into my favorite movie that you've ever made, your willingness to give people opportunities that may not have had a lot of experience. You're not afraid to cast young actors by any means. You're not afraid to get spontaneity on film just in a moment and share that. And I believe you've actually been recognized around the world for this film that is tremendous. I believe you were on Good Morning America, or not Good Morning America, Good Morning Australia for this. And
I know where he's going now. I was like, what are you doing?
It was one. Yes, we've gotten very serious
yeah.
here. And I believe you were actually related to the young talent that you put on film there. What am I talking about?
You had a part in that.
Yeah.
So the dancing video with my
Your
daughter.
That was fantastic. Dream Lover is what
Dream
you're
Lover,
saying
yeah.
on
So
it.
I've played I've been a musician. I play drums. Just started picking up the acoustic guitar this year, learning it.
Another talent. Oh wow.
But I've been doing the ukulele for about 5-6 years. And so there's an older video where I was singing the Moon song with my oldest daughter.
Oh wow.
And then there was this one that we were out, me and my wife were on a date, so we went and saw a movie and then came home. She went to take the babysitters home. And I was working on this Dream Lover song, and so usually to gauge myself and how I sound and how I play, I record myself so I can watch it later.
And the baby's still the show.
And then she just and then there was this moment that every father has who's musician or sings and just singing to their kids, but it was this wonderful moment that she just started really getting into the Dream Lover song and just dancing away and at the time, again, it was just so magical and just it was just
it.
and it was just me and her just.
And
right
you
there.
went ahead and downloaded that on YouTube, and I think you hit double digits with the viewership of it.
Yeah, so I put it on. I put it on my Facebook profile, to show family and friends, and then it goes from there. People loved it, and the dad page, the dad break. They're an awesome group of people that just everything dad type, culture, and they picked it up and shared it, and that's what hit it the first time. And then in the summer they did it again with their dad break Facebook watch channel, and it hit 185 million.
It's amazing
worldwide.
Can you
crazy.
believe that?
No,
I remember when that was all starting to happen.
And the biggest thing is just the responses from you go on social media and you get the political rants and you get the anger and but it was really overwhelming at times just to get kind messages of just this reminded me of my dad and and all this, and it's just like, well,
That's yeah.
Glad glad it's there. So
a business question for you regarding that. I mean, you mentioned how social media has changed the world and also the world of film and also live theater. I mean, being able to send auditions, videos and things of that sort, or clips of movies or things. Now, you had a tremendously popular social media video that I believe you can still find if you YouTube.
Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, Dream Lover.
Yeah.
Just
It's
type
out
it in,
there.
put down
Dream
Fox.
Lover with kid. I don't know.
Yeah, it's right there.
That's hard to do sometimes. It's just it's out there and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just
for the rest of your life.
it's just out there.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people, young people particularly, who want to have a career in film. They want to be Steven Spielberg. They want to be George Lucas. And so they're putting a lot of things out there on social media. You clearly got a lot of attention for this. Let me ask you, does that help your career?
I don't know. I've had people ask me about that, but it's or what it's done, and
But never on live radio.
well, no, I think I can honestly say that it's that was a moment that was captured, and it's just there. I mean, I've had messages of people asking me for like, when are you touring? When's your album gonna be out?
Oh wow!
And I'm just like,
my daughter's busy.
I'm not a singer. Like I'm not like that's not my cup of tea. That's not what I'm really wanting to do. But I just let it go and just kind of just let that do what it does, which is just it inspired people and it's
made them happy.
It's just made people happy. I mean, there's messages of people that are just the from Brazil or wherever that were just they send messages of just how so depressed they were, and then they watched that video and it just totally changed
That's great.
their attitude. I mean, so that like it's just I never want I don't want that to be a crutch or anything to like.
Hey, you're the video guy from YouTube.
To push an acting career or anything. It's more just like it's out there and it's just what it does, and I'm just gonna continue. I just do my auditions the way I do them, and
and how often do you go on auditions or tape your auditions?
This year has been plentiful for me, and it's been a huge blessing. Because I started into it about 2013. I signed with an agent, and then just started doing those. It's a lot of driving, and I think it's I've stupidity or passion. I think they're the same thing maybe sometimes, but
passion. There you go.
Passionately stupid or stupidly passionate.
Well, I just think there's
true artist.
There's a lot of times where it's just you go for an audition, you drive 3 hours, and you do 5-10 minute audition, and then you don't get the part.
Yeah.
And I think that, but just that it was a determination for me that like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm gonna start seeing fruits come from this. And so whether it was driving to Las Vegas, a couple times down to LA to try it out, and then just do it and then get some food, come back home.
And you were recently in a commercial too.
And then I think this year, I say with as many auditions I've done, I've been able to get some good callbacks and then actually book some awesome opportunities. I did a Las Vegas tourism video or commercial earlier this year, and that's out there, and then there's one that's going to be coming out in November that I filmed in August, I believe. August.
Oh, great!
Yeah, I love how
it's going to be a little crazy, so we'll let people see how it. We'll see how it does.
How fun!
Just social media stuff.
Well, I do love how things get to be filmed so much or so long before they actually air and such.
Yeah.
I just found out that on what is it, the show about Christmas houses or Christmas decorations or things that where we've had some local success in that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I found that they filmed that in October, isn't it?
Yeah.
And which is okay for a lot of areas of the country, but you go to southern Utah or someplace like that, and it's still hot.
Yeah.
And, the way you look at it on television, like, oh, this happened last night. Oh, it was freezing out there. It was December 22nd. When actually these people are dying in their heavy coats and, what have you, trying to appear like a cold Christmas. I'm amazed by
they're
that.
Always, it's time capsule. They're always filmed long before, and I mean, it's the same with movies. I mean, every movie you see coming out this year started 5 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago.
Right.
It's when it started. And then now you're just seeing it.
Plus, I remember being stunned as well. I did an R.C. Willey commercial. And by the way, if anybody sees an R.C. Willey commercial where you have kind of a dumpy, pudgy white guy on the bed jumping up and down because he's angry he can't change the mattress, that's me.
Where is this?
Just so you know, I don't think it exists
Is this on YouTube?
anymore.
I'm going to search this.
No.
Check it out. But check out some great
that-
acting.
Yeah.
But what amazed me is I got there at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And, they did some makeup and such. I felt all professional and everything. They sat me in the chair, gave me makeup, and they had specific clothes for me and such. And, I thought, well, this is going to be, it's just for like a 20-second spot is what this was.
Yeah.
My agent had talked me through it and such. I had never done a commercial before. And I went up to the place where they had the bed and they had the cameras, and I'm thinking, this is so cool. But, I'm trying to act all professional and such. And
How do
we
you act all
filmed.
professional?
Well, I don't know. I haven't figured that out
But
yet.
inside, you're just giddy.
Oh, yeah. And that was
Christmas.
actually the first time I was yelled or yelling came in my general direction.
Oh,
to
yeah.
hold my head still. But we filmed until 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
I was stunned.
For a 20-second
And
thing?
yeah. And
Yeah.
then I watched it on
That's
television. And I was like,
reality.
you have got to be kidding me. That we spent all of that time just for
There it
these
is.
short little bits. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some extra work that I did, starting out 2013. I did extra work for Wild Horses. It was a Robert Duvall film that was up in Salt Lake. James
Yeah.
Franco was in it. Didn't get to meet James
Oh,
or Josh
no.
Hartnett.
Oh.
But no, I was a Texas Ranger. That was my uncredited role.
The eyes of the ranger are
but
upon
they were
you.
they were filming this story up in Salt Lake to make it look like Texas. But I mean, you're there from, I think one day I was there, 9 o'clock in the morning to like 9 at night, full in wardrobe, and then they only used me for 20 minutes at night.
Right.
So the whole day, it's just you're just sitting there and
Yeah.
Well, I'm amazed.
yeah, it's pretty. Making a movie is not glamorous. Seeing it is glamorous,
Glamorous.
but making it is not glamorous
hard
at all.
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's right. I remember I did some extra work, which can be a lot of fun. You're on
Yeah.
the set, and of course, you learn really fast that it's really boring
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Bring a
but
book.
there was a star of the movie that I was, hoping to see, and I knew he was on set somewhere, and by on set I mean
Yeah.
somewhere within a mile of where I was. And, I looked for him all the time, could not find him. And then, I asked a friend of mine, we'd been there for several hours, and I said, where is this guy? And he pointed, he's like, oh, he's right there. And I looked, and this guy had played Stanley Kowalski from Streetcar Named Desire. This guy had played Tough Guy, and all these things. And I watched this. He was this skinny little guy that it was kind of like you could, just blow in his general direction
Right.
and he'd fall over. And then, I got a little closer to hear him speak. And on film, of course, he has this very manly voice.
Yeah.
But to hear him speak, in life, he was like, oh, yeah, thank you very much. and I was amazed at just the difference.
Presence.
Yes.
Wow.
How the camera
The
can capture
illusion.
what you want it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to say, we are about out of time here in our conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do want, Dan, thank you so much for being here. You have been here
you.
once before. I hope you're here before again.
Yes.
Bring me back.
Well,
and-
what about Maven? I just want to make sure that if anyone's
Yeah.
interested in it, how can they find out more
Yeah.
about your
So
show?
there's mavenmovie.com.
Okay.
You can go there, and there actually are ways to go and contribute through our GoFundMe. So we do
Fantastic.
have we have incentives. There's things according to how much you donate, but
Okay.
yeah, community support that way with crowdfunding
And
is
will there be a showing
wonderful.
here in St. George of this?
absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know when?
I don't know when
Okay.
because we're still we're getting into those winter months.
Yeah.
So we've kind of lost our time there.
Yeah.
But it's just it's like building a
process.
house.
Yeah.
It
That's
just takes
great.
its time.
That's great.
That's right. Well,
So-
everybody keep. I had a student today who actually misspoke, but it sounded wonderful. Keep your ears peeled for information.
Mhm.
And I thought, what a wonderful
Well, we'll
phrase
have to
there.
have Dan back on once he's
Yeah.
completed his movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That
some
would be
actors with
great.
them. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did promise at the beginning of the show that unfortunately our representative from Red Rock Swing was unable to join us today.
Yes.
But we do have some information about them just
Yep,
to share with you.
Yeah, they actually they meet every second Saturday. They swing dance and they meet at the education building in the Whitehead here on DSU campus. And it's only $6 to join. And if you're a Dixie alumni or a student, you get 2 for $6. So, and what a great thing! You go and you learn how to do a swing or a dance, and then there's a dance right after that. So that's a community thing, and then they perform all around. So I was pretty excited to
learn
find out
some
about
swing
this.
dancing.
Yeah, great date night.
Yeah.
So,
If you think you are exactly as I was when I was 8 and you're really good on the dance floor, you might want to reevaluate and
so
go
you're
and
not
take this
taking me?
class.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I think I will, but I'm going to
Just
get a
don't
little
hurt
more
me.
training
Don't
than when
hurt
I was
me.
8.
Yes.
Put your Kevin Bacon on and
Oh, there you go.
cut the rug.
Footloose. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Again, you
Yeah.
can check out our shows. We do stream live on YouTube as well as Radio St. George on Facebook. And we do get archived. So if you want to share this interview with other people, you can certainly do that. And they can certainly come and find that, and they can listen anytime, day or night. And let's see, on Tuesday, the 23rd, we're actually bringing in some representatives from Dixie Improv.
Yeah, it's
Ooh,
gonna be funny.
chewy.
Yeah.
And we'll also have another quick
Yeah.
visit from Adam Mast, who we've had here before. And then on Thursday, the 25th, we'll be talking to Josh Scott,
Yep.
who's a local director, as well as the theater teacher
Igor.
at Dixie High, Igor. in
Hi, Gore.
Young-
Yes, from Young.
Young Frankenstein, as well as Zach Webb, who is an up-and-coming percussionist here in town. Does some really, really exciting work, is going to talk to us a bit. And until you hear from us again at 4 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we ask that you keep your focus on the arts.